Hey guys, what's up? It's me again. It's been a while, I know. Kinda got into some other stuff that I've been working on instead of these lately. I would feel a little more bad about it if it wasn't for the fact that in one of their updates they did actually pretty much do what I was intending to do with one little fell move. In your Lisette, if you look to your left, there's this little codex deal over here where you can access all of your different available information on things you've scanned and unlocked and all that. And they've added this missions section, which, as you can see, has every type of mission in it. And if you were to click on one, let's say excavation, because they recently made a change to that, it'll tell you everything you need to know right about it. At the start of the mission, an objective marker appears, showing where the scanner is going to drop. You fight your way there, it drops down, you steal power cores from enemies, you stick it into the thing. It might not be quite as, I guess, in depth. It doesn't feel right using it because I was glossing over everything when I was doing these, but it's not really quite as in depth as the actual ones I was doing before, but it gives you enough of information that between the picture and the description, it'll kind of easily tell you about how things work. And the other thing I wanted to actually say was that the excavation video I did is a little outdated now. It got rid of the scanner altogether, so all you have to do is just wait for them to be available, run to them, and have the actual diggers drop. I was going to make a video, but at the same time it seems like a waste of video just to redo that video, which is mostly still sound and everything it says, with the exception of not having to run back and forth to the main scanner anymore. The other nice part about doing the ones in here is that it tells you what you need to know without having to spend a whole lot of time listening to me talk. Again, it's not as in-depth, so I may actually continue with my tutorial videos at some point when I get a bit more time. I was tempted to look into trying to find some better software to work with so that I could do my audio and splice it in afterwards, because I'm not sure if you've all noticed, but my mechanical keyboard is really kinda loud. And it gets really annoying listening to that, especially if you're paying attention to the entire video and all you can hear is just going off non-stop. And it's partially my fault because I do have the mechanical keyboard. I kind of got roped into it with all the smooth talk around about how mechanical keyboards are. As it turns out, I really didn't need a mechanical keyboard. It doesn't do anything that much extra for me outside of the clicks, which if I'm typing things, I kind of enjoy the clicks because it little recognition I'm hitting the keys. But if I'm trying to record something on a microphone that sits on the desk next to it, as you can tell, it's not exactly the most opportune way of doing things. In the long run, maybe I'll pick up a microphone stand and maybe that'll do the trick, or maybe I'll change the setup or whatever. Likewise, the video quality seems to just keep dropping. I've tried some different presets and things like that, and it kind of ropes down for the most part. And the game for me runs perfectly fine. You wouldn't really know it watching the videos because I had to downscale the thing and lower the FPS of it in order for it to actually record the footage well. This could be because I'm just using a software program on the computer to record what's being displayed to my monitor, and I'm still running off of an decent but old i3 processor. So it kind of bottlenecks everything I'm trying to do when it comes to the actual recording, which for me isn't a big deal because for the most part, I don't tend to record anything like that. Usually if I do record things, it would be something off computer with like a GoPro or the likes, and then just some movie editing. I attempted messing around with the GoPro thing a little bit, but unfortunately, with how my setup is, I don't actually use a monitor. I use a projector for anything on my computer. So finding the right place to put the GoPro where it picks up pretty much just the screen, while at the same time not being in the way of the actual image being projected, turned out to be a little more difficult than I expected it to be. And of course, what with GoPros not having any kind of zoom capabilities built into them, it's kind of hard to get it to zoom into just the screen so that you can see what I want you to see and still have decent video quality. So I've had a couple of setbacks. Granted, it hasn't bothered most of you. Most of you I see are getting the information just fine, even if the quality is kind of rubbish, which I can appreciate, and I'm glad that it seems to be being useful, I guess, because I do know that some of this stuff is a little confusing. And even with the descriptions in here, it still doesn't really tell you a lot of the like fine-tuned things, like how much does the life support bring back, which I did go over in my video a bit, but of course in the description here it doesn't really say it. So I will probably try to make more of these videos eventually when I get around to it. I've just been toying different methods of trying to do so. My last attempt was to record the footage separate and then have the audio recorded afterwards, which is, funnily enough, actually really tricky because you never know how long it's going to take for you to describe or explain everything that's going on or that needs to be known until you've actually done it. So it worked nicely when I was doing it kind of ad hoc like I usually do right now in this video and my past ones, where I'm just talking as I go because it's right there. I can be like, oh, okay, this has gone on long enough. It's time for me to actually stop and, get on with it. And I don't really have that same kind of capabilities when I've just recorded the footage, a set time frame, and put it in there. I mean, the benefit would be that I could get the information across more concisely, because since I'm not just going with the flow of things, so to speak, I can just get straight to the point and be like, oh, this is this mission, this is what you gotta do, this is the benefits of it, this is the downsides of it, and then be done with it. Of course, the other downside to that is the fact that I can't really react with what's on the screen. Like, as an example with the excavation one again, when I was going across it and they would drop the life support, or the power core, sorry, I can go, oh, hey, that right there is the power core. That's what you need to put into this, and then this bar here will show you this. I can still kind of do that, but if I'm trying to be concise and to the point, then it's not really as useful to just randomly cut across like that. There is one benefit more than just having to listen to me for 15 to 30 minutes, however long my videos were taking, is that these mission descriptions can actually do some that I haven't been able to do, or that I just have no interest in doing. For instance, Conclave is actually the player versus player of the game, and being a non-competitive person, I really have no desire to play any of the player versus player aspect to the game. I know they just did a big update on it and it's now more fun than ever, but I just don't really care for going up against other players. I'd rather do that cooperative side of things. So there's missions in that set that I wouldn't be able to explain, like how does Capture the Cephalon work or what the intricacies are of it, because I just don't really care to play it. Another example would be this recovery mission, which only happens if you fail against the Zanuka Hunter that can pop in and invade your missions. I haven't done that yet because it either never shows up when it would actually stand a chance against me, Or it shows up when I'm in a squad of 4 people all decked out for bear and it just gets rocked. So there is things like that where it's nice that you can come in here, you can look at this, you can see the descriptions of things, and you can get the general idea of how it's played. I will probably go on and try to do more of these. I mean, if we look at this, we can see that I've done a bunch of these already. Assassination, we went over. Capture, we went over. The deception missions, I believe we went over. The defense missions, we've gone over, if I recall correctly. Excavation, I know I did, and I just had to amend it a little bit with this one. Exterminates, we went over because they're the one everybody knows. Went over interception. We did go over the invasion type, which has also boiled over into a new mission type of sorts that's not really super recent, but called crossfire missions, which is essentially just an exterminate where you have to kill 2 factions instead of 1. The mobile defenses, rescue missions, sabotage missions. I mean, we have at this point gone over most of the mission types, so it would be a shame for me not to finish them. Particularly the hive sabotage and the hijack, which particularly for me, I'm gonna need to get my group of friends together to play that so I can record it, because they are, although I'm sure they are soloable and some people could do them perfectly fine, it would just be so much easier on my end of playing the game, or anybody else playing the game, to do it in a group, because more people. And particularly some of the hive sabotage missions, it can escalate pretty quickly, even though it's not really a wave type mission or anything. Just all the different effects going on and the enemies that keep streaming out. It can get pretty rough pretty quick. Hijacks are just more simple if you have more players, because it deals with a mechanic based on your shields. So the more people with shields around, the easier it is to do the mission. So those 2 I will probably get to. I just have to do a little fandangling, because most of the time when I play with my group of friends, I will have at least one of them on a Skype call so we can communicate back and forth, because I'm not a huge fan of typing. It works, but it also stops me from doing anything when it's going on. So most likely, again, I'm not going to be done with my tutorial videos. I will come back at some point when I have the time and I'm not distracted by a tabletop game that's finally popped up in the local area that I'm excited about. And I'll get in here and I'll finish up my mission tutorials, and then I'm sure they'll end up adding or changing more of the missions and moot some more of them. What you gonna do, right? There is a few more things that they've added in that we can kind of go over at some point as well, in case somebody's interested in how exactly some of the new stuff works. Although a lot of it is pretty well explained by quests that you can do, such as the New Strange does a pretty good job of explaining how the scanning system works, and it also introduces you to the Cephalon Samaris within the relay, and kind of gives you an idea of everything that you need to know about him there. So it's there. You don't really need an explanation more than what the tutorial does, as really that's pretty much how I learned about it, and at that point that's really all I know about it. The Archwing stuff does play out as a normal mission, although it's accessed differently, so I could go over those if there's interest in it, although it also is one of those things where at the moment it doesn't really seem too necessary. When they get around to updating the game with the content that requires it more, then I can kind of go over it then, because it'll be more pertinent for everybody to know. But for now, it's mostly just me updating you and letting you know that the codex does contain a quick little description of all the missions. So if you don't feel like watching my videos, you can get the kind of spark notes of it on the actual game itself now. It might not give you the tips or the tricks or the other fancy shenanigans, but it'll at least get you knowing how to play the stage. The other thing, really the last thing I wanted to go over at the moment, is that I started using the Valkyrie a little bit more, because it is a fun frame and I do like it. It's just I'm not very good with it. But I ended up playing around with it and managed to find a kind of setup that works for me with it, that kind of allows me to stay alive when I'm using it, because I'm very much the kind of person who banks on their shields absorbing damage and then kind of tries to run away and hide when my shields are gone. And it's not something that's really possible with the Valkyrie, because she has such low shields that your shields are usually gone as soon as you get into the fight. So I've played around with her a little bit, and she is a lot more viable now, even for me, than she originally was in a lot of mission types. I kind of found that groove for her, that works when I use her. So I know there was other people out there that have been using her to all kinds of good extent, because I've seen videos of people using a Valkyrie and doing incredible things with her. It's just I never quite found a way to make her match my playstyle until recently, and she's been doing fine in T2s and T3s and things like that, so she's working now for me, and it's just one of those little things where I kind of want to bring it up, because it kind of shows how if you can find a way to make it fit your playstyle, you can still make pretty much anything in the game work for you and still be enjoyable while doing so. It's a very broad game. You can do many things with it, and you just kind of have to figure out what works for you in order to get the most out of it. It still might not necessarily, when I play it, work as good as somebody who's got it way better set up and knows just how to make the most out of every single one of her moves. But I've gotten to the point where I can go through and clean a room of guys, pick up a friend, and then still be alive at the end of it. So that's part of the fun. And that's kind of why I also haven't gone over like any Warframe specific videos that I've told you this is how you need to mod it or this is how you need to do this. Because it's a very wide open thing, and depending on what you have for mods, depending on how you play, and depending on, in my case, how long it takes you to find a way to make it so that you don't die immediately when playing that frame, the possibilities are pretty close to endless. That's really all I wanted to go over. I just wanted to let everybody know that I wasn't, in fact, dead or anything, and that I will probably finish them off after I get done being so heavily distracted with other things that I've been doing. If you've actually ever... most of the people that are subscribing now because of these videos aren't necessarily familiar with my channel, but if you actually look at the post times of my videos, I can be very erratic as to when I post things. Because it's very much I suddenly feel like making a video, I should go and make a video. In this case, the Warframe tutorials were the most recent time of that happening, where I was like, oh, I should make a video because I'm getting a lot of friends that are getting into the game, and I should do this. And now most of my friends have been in the game, they've played it for a while, they know how to do these missions. And then I got super distracted elsewhere. One of the other things I was looking into doing is I'm thinking about possibly starting up some tutorial videos for how to play a game called Infinity. And some of you may think immediately when I say that Disney Infinity, which I'm sure is fun and all that, but I don't have that, and that's not actually what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is actually a tabletop miniatures game made by Corvus Belli that I started getting interested in about a year back and just now locally started up. So obviously my attention is towards that because I'm super excited because it's finally starting up. I can find people to play. I can actually learn more of the rules because I have more than just me to go off of when doing it. So you may end up seeing some videos from that pop up if I decide to go that route. I've had a few other ideas here and there that aren't nearly as fleshed out as this one or the Infinity one. So we'll just kind of see where it goes, go by ear. Hopefully everybody doesn't just get bored and run away, and if they do, I mean, hopefully these videos have been useful. Until the next video, guys, I hope you keep enjoying Warframe, and as always, if there's any questions, just drop a comment below and I will do my best to answer them. If you have a specific problem with a mission, or even if it's a Warframe, I mean, I can't necessarily go out of my way and go, hey, this Warframe needs to be played this way and you have to have these mods in it or anything like that. But I can tell you how I play it and how it works for me if you're having issues with it, and maybe that'll spark something where you can be like, oh, okay, maybe I can try doing something like that and it'll work. I might not necessarily go into mods in my response or anything like that, although I could probably recommend some that make it work the way I use it. But even if you have questions on that, and I don't have videos for it, feel free to ask them, because even if I don't necessarily know myself what the main answer is, I can always tell you what my opinion on it is and hope that that helps you. Have a good one, everybody, and I will see you next time.